The university has been known as Longhorns for now 100 years. It was in 1904 that David Frank, who was a writer for the Texan, the student newspaper, began to refer to the athletic teams as Longhorns. And Bevo made his first appearance on Thanksgiving Day in 1916 at the football game between the A&M College of Texas and the University of Texas. At the time, we had a recent graduate, Stephen Pickney, who for years wanted to have a live Longhorn mascot, and at the time was working for the Attorney General's office on a number of raids on cattle rustlers. In September of 1916, Stephen came across a stolen Longhorn that had a particularly orange fur and thought that's the one that could become our first living mascot, and contacted 124 of his best friends who all chipped in a dollar bill, paid for the Longhorn, had it shipped to Austin on a boxcar, and made it to Austin just in time for the football game on Thanksgiving Day. Now, UT won that particular game in 1916, 22-7, which was sort of a revenge from the previous year where A&M had won in College Station, 13-0. Right after the football game, the Alcalde, the alumni magazine, was rushed to press for the December 1916 issue. And in it there was a count of the whole game, as well as the mascot, or the Longhorn, that was presented to the students. And the editor of the Alcalde at the time simply said, his name is Bevo, long may he reign. And as time went on, football season ended and basketball season began. A&M had a habit that particular year of wanting to play pranks. With the UT game coming up, a group of Aggies came into Austin very early in the morning of February 10th, 1917, went down to the South Austin stockyards, wrestled the animal to the ground, and branded the Longhorn 13-0, which was that score of the football game the year before. About a week later, word leaked out in Austin, or at least there was a rumor, that Bevo would be kidnapped and taken back to College Station altogether. So the Longhorn was rushed out of Austin to a ranch about 60 miles west of the city. And that essentially settled the debate of what to do with the Longhorn.
I knew about the part where the Aggies branded him 13-0 because they were mad that we were better than them. So we turned it into, spelled out and changed it to Bevo, and I always wondered what that was. And somebody told me it was a popular near beer.
With Prohibition looming, Anheuser-Busch had to do something to stay in business, and came out with a non-alcoholic near beer that they called Bevo, which really is a play on the word pivo, the Bohemian word for beer. And it says, the all-year-round soft drink, appetizing, healthful, nutritious, refreshing, milk or water may contain bacteria. Bevo never does. So here it is right here. At a time before pasteurized milk. It turns out that Bevo, the beverage, was not even being sold in Austin in 1916. It had just come out in St. Louis and was not yet readily available in Austin. So maybe this really isn't the origin of the name.
This is Alice's stuffed Bevo that came to the hospital to meet her the day she was born.
What happens if she goes to A&M?
She won't go to A&M. No, she won't go to A&M.
The legend that's been so popular for so many years, I think, originated up at A&M. And the legend is, in order to save face, the UT students changed the brand 13-0, and changed the 13 into a B, the dash to an E, and then inserted a V in between the dash and the O to read Bevo. There's no way they could even make that into a Bevo, because you can't get a V in between the dash and the O. The truth is that the brand was never changed, and the Longhorn had already been named Bevo months before he was branded.
A lot of things, like Harpo, Marks, and his brothers, they all had O's at the end of their name. It was really popular to just say something O, like for a nickname. And the plural word for beef is beef. So they just said Bevo. That's how it happened. That's the story.
The other theory is that there were a number of comic strips in newspapers, including Austin, written by a Gus Major. All featured animals were named after their character traits and ending in O. One comic strip featured a bunch of monkeys, and one of them was named Sherlock-O, the monk who always got into trouble by investigating things and getting himself in trouble. Braggo, the monk, made empty boasts, and so on. And these were incredibly popular comic strips, and for a while it was a national fad to nickname your friends after their character traits and ending it in O. which is where, say, the Marx brothers got their names, Groucho, Harpo, and Chico. Groucho was known as being moody, Harpo played the harp, and Chico raised chicks as a kid. The term beeve, B-E-E-V-E, is not only the plural for beef, but is also a sort of a slang term for a cow or a steer that's destined to become food but isn't yet. And getting from beeve to bevo is not very far given the ruralness of the Texas at the time. So it's probably the more likely origin of the name of Bevo is that he's really named after beef and just ending in O.
I heard that the first Bevo, because it was during the Depression or something, they didn't have a lot of food, so they ate him. They ate him.
Yeah, I've heard that the original and I get together and chop them up.
Football had been played through World War I, sort of on a limited basis. So there was a 1919 football season. And by then we realized that it cost about 50 cents a week to take care of this longhorn steer sitting out there. And again, what to do with this thing since he's still branded 13-0. We really can't use him. The banquet was scheduled for January of 1920, so the decision was made to bring the longhorn back to Austin, fatten him up, and he was to be the main course at the January 1920 football banquet. Texas invited a bunch of the A&M officials over and shared the meal and even presented the A&M officials with the hide that still had the 13-0 brand on it, and they took that back with them to College Station and had it on display, I believe, for a short time, though it's since been lost.
The ranch we're on right now is the home of Bevo. They're the standard questions. No, he's not eating. We wouldn't ever want to eat him. He means too much to us to do that. And I would also answer that in the way that I don't think he would taste very good since he's 20 years old, but I wouldn't want to eat him anyway.
When they get him, I guess they sedate him and fill him full of like things to keep from, running into the Big Bertha and, killing people on the field.
Absolutely not. He is not tranquilized. You can talk to our handlers and see their bruises and scars from working with him. He'll get grumpy sometimes and get you, but he's under control because the handlers work well with him and he's ready for his environment, but he's not tranquilized. The handlers are out here several times a week working with him, making sure that the steer is accustomed to them and they're accustomed to the steer, and try to reduce any anxiety that he might have going into something.
Well, those are called show sticks. They're just used to scratch the underbelly of the steer. It basically puts him to sleep. If you were standing there and somebody was scratching your belly, you'd be happy too. So.
We tried shooting shotguns nearby him to get him maybe accustomed to the cannon going off at the games. And then the band practices, which was the big thing, getting accustomed to the really loud noise. But when 80,000 people are cheering, we couldn't really reproduce that. It was just kind of something we had to take the first time we saw it, and we thought he did well. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of what he's done and what he's given the university and what he's given the Silver Spurs. He's been the perfect steer and anything we could have ever hoped for.